500 hours of gaming, over 85 games played across many platforms, 620 achievements and 8 platinum trophies. That was my 2025. These are not impressive stats by any means, but I'm proud of them. 2025 wasn't a year where I chased every new release. In fact, I rarely play new releases at all, mostly because that £70 price tag is a bit much for me, and I feel like a lot of people probably feel the same way. But that's a conversation for another video. What 2025 was, though, was a year where a handful of games really stuck with me because of how they made me feel, what they helped me overcome, or simply where I was in life when I played them. So this isn't a best games of 2025 list, and it's not even everything I played. These are just the games I know I'll remember. So as always, let's have a conversation. Just a quick honourable mention for Refantazio before we actually get into the list. I'm not very far into Refantazio, but I'm really enjoying it. I really like the art style, and it feels timeless in a way that immediately clicked with me. The story also seems interesting so far. I don't want to say much more since I'm still early on, but it's one I enjoy taking my time with, and it definitely made enough of an impression that I want to mention it here. I'll start with Until Dawn, the original PS4 version and not the remake. Although now that I have completed it and it's available through PS Plus, I am interested in playing the remake. Maybe next year I'll make the list, who knows. I love watching horror movies, but I absolutely cannot play horror games, and honestly, the very thing that makes horror games exciting for a lot of people is exactly why I struggle with them. The fact that they are interactive. I don't react fast enough, I panic, and I really don't enjoy being the one directly confronting whatever the game throws at you. Until Dawn is the first horror game I've played all the way through, and that alone makes it memorable for me. I was tense basically the entire time, but I was also really invested in the story and the choices. Because it doesn't demand the same constant input as something like Dead Space or The Last of Us, it felt more manageable. Stressful, but manageable. Finishing it felt like a genuine achievement, and honestly it gave me a bit more confidence going forward with games I'd usually avoid. Next up is the Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Trilogy. Now I fully accept that these games aren't everyone's cup of tea or coffee, but for me, these games were fantastic. Each game in the trilogy is broken down into 4 or 5 cases. Not every case is great. Some of them definitely feel like filler, especially in the third game, where it felt like a large portion of the middle was just that. But when these games are good, they're really good. Cases like Turnabout Goodbyes and Rise from the Ashes really stood out to me, and those aren't short cases either. Some cases can take anywhere between 5 to 7 hours to complete. Rise from the Ashes was originally DLC in the Wii version and later added as bonus content in the DS and PS4 versions. The PS4 version being the one I played, and completing that case alone took me around 4 to 5 hours. The finales of all 3 games were strong in their own ways. Even in Trials and Tribulations, where I didn't love most of the middle cases, the first case, the second to last case, and the final case really tied everything together and made it worthwhile. One thing I did feel a bit uncomfortable with at times was the way Phoenix and Maya's relationship was framed in certain moments, especially considering Maya's age early on in the series. It never became the focus of the games and didn't take away from what I loved, the cases, the writing, and the emotional payoffs, but it was something I was aware of while playing. This trilogy also ended up being my 25th platinum trophy, which I'm genuinely really proud of. It took time, patience, 9 months of it in fact, and a lot of reading, but it was completely worth it. Life is Strange True Colors really surprised me. On paper, the main power, empathy, doesn't sound like much of a superpower at all, especially when you compare it to the powers in previous entries in the series. And even now, I'm not fully sure I understand how it works, but I really enjoyed how it was used in the story. Yes, there are plot holes, and yes, not everything makes perfect sense, but I really enjoyed my time with this game. The characters and the emotional beats really worked for me, even when the logic didn't fully hold up. This ended up being my 26th platinum trophy, and it's one I look back on pretty fondly. As a side note, I also completed and platinumed Life is Strange 2 this year, which I really didn't enjoy and mainly finished just for the platinum. I understand what they were going for with the story, but it didn't land for me at all. This was a big one for me. I unlocked my first trophy in Days Gone on the 8th of April 2021, and I only finished the game this year. I've stopped and started this game so many times. I tried again in 2024 and barely got anywhere. Horror survival games are really difficult for me, and Days Gone sits firmly in that category. But this year I finally pushed through. I continued from my old save, but I'd say I played about 90% of the game this year, and finishing it genuinely felt like an accomplishment. Open world survival, horror elements, all things that are usually unusually hard for me to play, yet I stuck with it. The hordes were absolutely terrifying, but Borislav247, who is a content creator on YouTube, helped immensely. Not just with the story required hordes, but also with the optional ones I needed to take on for XP to unlock my final remaining skills for the platinum. Story-wise, Deacon is basically an errand boy for a lot of the game, but the overarching question of where his wife Sarah is and whether she's even alive is what kept me invested. I really loved the you and your bike against the world feeling that the game gives you. I loved the true ending of this game, which honestly should have been the main ending and not something you find after you think the game is finished. If you played the game, then you know what I'm talking about. And it genuinely made me want a sequel. This became my 27th platinum trophy, and it's definitely one I'll always remember. Mullet Majak was just pure fun. Short levels, adrenaline-filled gameplay, and no unnecessary padding. The game is only around 3 to 4 hours long, so it never overstays its welcome. Every level feels intense in the best way, especially since dying sends you back to the start of the current chapter. You lose your temporary upgrades, but permanent upgrades and unlocked items carry over, letting you push further with each run. This one completely took me by surprise, and I loved every minute of it. It's short, it's loud, it's ridiculous, and I highly recommend it. Sometimes the game doesn't need to be deep to be memorable, it just needs to be fun. Simpsons Hit and Run is the only game on this list that I haven't finished. It's also the oldest game on here, releasing back in 2003. I never played The Simpsons Hit and Run growing up, so there's no nostalgia bias, and I'm not even that big of a Simpsons fan. And yet, I completely get why people love it. Playing it now just makes me feel like a kid again. It's pure joy, simple, silly, and genuinely charming. If you love games, missed that era, and somehow never played this, I really recommend checking it out. You can play it on PS2, but if you don't have one or don't have access to it, the original Xbox version, which is the one I have, works through backwards compatibility on Xbox 360. I really wasn't sure whether to include this one. This is the only game on this list that actually released in 2025 and that I also played in 2025, mainly thanks to Game Pass. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 has a really strong, intriguing introduction, and the story pulled me in immediately. Turn-based combat isn't really my thing, especially the parrying, and some of the bosses were tough, mostly because I was underleveled since I just wanted to see what happened next in the story. I won't spoil anything, but I will say that there were some things that happened not too far into the story that I genuinely could not believe the game actually did. I absolutely adored Mezami Eskia, and while I think the story is unique, memorable, and bold, I also found it a bit convoluted at times. Some elements didn't fully click for me, which might just be down to how philosophical some of its ideas are. That's not a bad thing, it just wasn't always for me. But it's a game I'm still thinking about, and that alone probably means that it belongs in this video. So those were the games I'll remember from 2025. Not because they were perfect games, but because they meant something to me, whether they helped me overcome my own limitations as a gamer, or because they connected with me at exactly the right moment. If you've played any of these, let me know what you thought. And if there is a game you played in 2025 that really stuck with you, I'd love to hear all about it. Thanks for watching.